Welcome to today's FCICA product promotional webinar series. We are pleased to have today with us Clint Schramm, who is Director of Marketing, and Aaron Abbott, Director of Technical Sales from LATICRETE SUPERCAP. And Clint, I believe we will begin the session with you.
Thanks, Kelly, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us on this webinar, and thank the folks at FCICA for making the webinar possible. One note, we hope that your families are safe and sound during the crisis that is facing, so we wish goodwill there. Welcome to the introduction of the LATICRETE SUPERCAP Ready-Mix Delivery Service. It's a delivery service of self-leveling underlayment, aka SLU. We have about an hour together. We'll do our best to finish on time, including answering any questions that you may have. Our agenda is we want to talk about industry trends, the limitations of traditional installation of SLU, what is the LATICRETE SUPERCAP system. We have a project video of a project we did in Salem, Massachusetts, which we think you'll find interesting and really does communicate the system quite well. We have a new service that we've beta tested in a couple of cities, and it's gone very well, and we're rolling it out. It's available in select markets. There's something new in ready-mix delivery. But we have a time and materials comparison, which is apples to apples. We have SUPERCAP Ready-Mix Delivery Service Spotlight, one of the early adopters of the Ready-Mix Delivery Service. And we have how the SUPERCAP Ready-Mix Delivery Service works. We cover some warranties, and we certainly invite your questions and answers. Aaron is going to cover industry trends.
Thank you, Clint. So let's talk about some of the trends in the flooring industry that suggest an increasing need for self-leveling underlayments, and further, the need for self-leveling underlayments delivered in a new way that we'll talk about in this presentation. So these trends are the increasing awareness and tighter limits for floor flatness tolerances. The second is the increasing popularity of large format tile, which ties into floor flatness. Also, engineered wood flooring. Again, floor flatness definitely helps, as we'll discuss. We're going to talk briefly about some of the root causes of floor failures, faster construction schedules, and one trend that many general contractors and subcontractors in the flooring industry are probably aware of is the new OSHA silica dust regulations that are going into effect this year. So I'm sure that everyone attending this webinar is aware of the importance of floor flatness. For years, the ASTM method F710 has set sort of a baseline standard for floor flatness for resilient floor coverings on concrete floors. So it's used by the resilient industry, but it's also referenced generally by some of the other types of floor coverings, such as tile, etc. This method states that concrete floors shall be flat to within the equivalent of 3/16 of an inch in 10 feet. So this is a gap under straight edge method. And it also outlines the rough correlation between floor flatness, FF numbers, and straight edge tolerances. So the concrete industry in opposition to the ASTM F710 method, the concrete industry tends to use the F number system, and the resilient floor goods industry and some of the other floor goods companies have tended to recommend and use straight edge tolerances. So you can see that there can potentially be a sort of a conflict when the concrete industry or the concrete contractors are using one measuring method, floor flatness, to put their slabs down, and the floor goods companies are recommending a different method, gap in 10 feet, or eighth or quarter inch in 10 feet method. There can be some disagreement between these methods of measurement. So the concrete, I'm sorry, in any event, the floor goods manufacturer and the architect or specifier, they'll use one of these measurement systems at least to tell the floor goods installer how flat the slab needs to be before installing the floor goods. They'll typically require an inspection to be done to make sure that the floor is flat enough for the floor goods. So let's summarize this point by agreeing that concrete is not often flat enough to begin with to install floor goods without some form of remediation. So self-leveling underlayments are used, they're more important than ever as these new building techniques such as modular, passive energy building construction, and precast concrete plank are being specified. Precast plank may or may not be important in your markets, but certainly where that is used, grouting, filling the gaps, and leveling are almost always required before floor goods installation. And because of these trends, in general, self-leveling underlayment SLU demand is expected to rise by nearly 10% per year over the next 5 years. So as you see, these trends put more demand on building flatter substrates, and that's one reason why the LATICRETE SUPERCAP Ready-Mix Delivery Service serves a need in today's construction industry. So today's design trends for modern materials are starting to favor large format tiles. So tiles are getting larger, and this photo shows one example of this type of tile system. These tiles and stone materials are classified by the TCNA, which is the Tile Council of North America, as large and heavy tile. Large format tiles are readily available nationwide, worldwide, I guess, and can range in overall lengths from 15 inches up to 10 feet. The flatter the substrate, the better the installation, appearance, and product lifestyle, which means a lot of manufacturers, designers, builders, and owners have concerns about floor flatness. So this photo is an example of how tile setters work with a 10-foot jig placing a large format tile on the floor. It's unwieldy. It's certainly not not our parents' tile that's in our parents' bathroom or our grandparents' bathroom. These are big pieces of relatively brittle and heavy, high-quality flooring products, but difficult to install. So you see this type of jig that's being used to put down a large format tile by these contractors, these trained contractors. So the TCNA handbook instructs that tiles with one edge longer than 15 inches, the tile in this photo certainly is larger than that, they must do various things. So they recommend that they must use LHT mortar. Larger trowels must be used than typical. Bond coat thicknesses are up to 3 times greater than what would be used for a small tile. Floor flatnesses of 1/8 inch in 10 feet and a 1/16 in 24 inches are recommended. It's pretty flat. And setting these larger tiles requires, again, more mortar and maybe 2 times flatter substrates. So with this trend, now more than ever, specifying and delivering flatter substrates is really critical to successful installations. You don't want gaps underneath these tiles. You want a flat floor that's going to minimize the amount of material that you need to bond it. And you obviously need a flat floor to be able to reduce hollow sounds, hollow spots, etc. In a similar vein, engineered wood is another industry trend that is gaining more and more popularity, and it's similar to, in a lot of ways, to the requirements for large format tile. Engineered wood requires flatter floors than traditional hardwood, and as I mentioned, this segment is growing in both residential and commercial applications. A typical engineered wood manufacturer's installation guidelines will require, for example, glue down applications. There'll be 3/16 inch gap in 10 feet or 1/8 inch in 6 feet. Pretty tight. Floating floor applications, even tighter, 1/8 inch in 10 feet for floor goods installation. So some of the root causes of floor failures that the industry should be aware of. We've talked about flatness out of tolerance. Two others that come up pretty frequently are moisture issues and alkalinity issues. So moisture and alkalinity in combination can break down the glues that are used to hold especially resilient materials down, resilient floor goods down to the substrate. So if you are having problems with any of these three things, flatness, moisture, alkalinity, these common issues will cause project delays, change orders, certainly customer complaints, finished flooring failures potentially, and we obviously want to stay away from that. The LATICRETE SUPERCAP family of products includes moisture mitigation epoxy products, which are compliant with the new ASTM permeance requirements, and easy to install. It's a two-part epoxy called LATICRETE SUPERCAP Moisture Vapor Control. And our products are formulated with low alkali cement materials, so they start off with a low alkalinity versus pure Portland-based cement products. So the combination of the two, the moisture vapor control where there's moisture problems, and the fact that our formulas have a low alkalinity to begin with, really help guarantee better results than you would have with traditional products.
As many of you know, we think that this is a growing trend. Certainly many of the organizations in the country like AGC are reporting that labor shortages drive up project costs and they slow down timelines. There is a real skilled labor shortage in the country, and LATICRETE SUPERCAP system is helping to meet the challenge of the diminishing skilled labor shortage in our industry by taking less time. And you'll hear that throughout this webinar. Is that one of the key tenets and one of the brand foundations of what LATICRETE SUPERCAP Ready-Mix Delivery Service is capable of is saving time. And we do it by capping concrete slab. You see now that there's more demand for flatter substrate and capping them. There's also a halo effect when flatter floors equate to faster build times. And so the impact of labor shortages, and this is reported by GCs, remodelers, and design build firms, project costs are going up. I'm sure that'll vary across the country, but 59% is a big deal number. Project length is extending, and so the carrying cost for a project is quite substantial, and those costs are leading to higher overall project costs because everything takes more time. Project quality is dipping a little bit, and customer satisfaction is dipping a little bit. And there is one silver lining, is that general contractors are depending on qualified subcontractors is up significantly. Some report as much as 50%. And so the subcontractor is in a very good position right now, especially if they have the equipment and the skilled labor and they're taking care of their labor and they're adopting new innovative technologies like LATICRETE SUPERCAP, which is a proven time saver.
So the OSHA regulations that we alluded to earlier have been updated. This year, the OSHA respirable silica concentration that's allowed for construction workers has been decreased by OSHA. What this means is that managers who are responsible for health and safety on construction job sites will be required to do workplace exposure monitoring and potentially medical monitoring for employees if certain levels in the workspace are exceeded, certain dust levels are exceeded. So The LATICRETE SUPERCAP system, due to its nature, certainly reduces the amount of dust that goes into buildings. So we wanted to kind of put some science behind this, this common sense feeling about our performance. So LATICRETE SUPERCAP commissioned an independent laboratory to conduct a on-site analysis back in October of 2016 on an actual job site in Boston, Massachusetts, to gather evidence on the question, the basic question: does using the SUPERCAP system introduce respirable silica dust to the interior and exterior of a job site? And the report that was provided to us based on this testing concluded that there was no respirable silica dust detected in any worker exposure or local area sample taken during the application of the LATICRETE SUPERCAP SC500 product. So no one else can make this claim. As far as we know, it's a big deal for all parties on a job site, especially the safety teams and insurance underwriter folks. In other words, installing SUPERCAP exceeds compliance with the new OSHA regulations set to be in force on September 23rd, 2017. So that's coming up quick. So let's talk about small bag self-levelers a little bit. This is the traditional way to package self-leveling underlayments in small paper or plastic bags. And typically when the product is provided in this format, the bags must be opened up on a job site and mixed into water, either in a barrel or into a small pump machine. So barrel and bucket mixing is commonly done for either small areas or even for larger areas that aren't aware of the LATICRETE SUPERCAP pump truck. On large installations, though, there's considerable disadvantages to using small bags. The cost and the time spent on staging material, loading freight elevators, setting up movable water and power supplies for these mixing areas, and then removing all the debris, including the empty bags that usually have a heel of dusty materials on the inside, that all creates additional silica dust contamination, and it's not necessary. It's not necessary any longer. Plus, this activity restricts access for various trades to move around all of these bags and the mixing stations that have been set up for considerable amounts of time, and time is money. So to summarize the limitations of the old method, the small bag self-levelers, it's costly and time-consuming to move all those bags in and out of the building, and the equipment that's used to mix. If you're using barrels, it's not so bad, but small pumps, you have to get those in, potentially up freight elevators and plugged in, and you have to keep moving them as you move from floor to floor, from area to area. If you're using a barrel mixer with a portable drill, the electrical hookup may not be that difficult, but certainly if you're using the larger portable pumps, you may need a pigtail, a electrical hookup, and also a water source, local water source in every area of the interior of the building that you're doing the mixing. Barrels and small pumps are slow, so it generates low volume, low throughput. It's obviously labor intensive. You could get an inconsistent mix with all that labor. People get tired. Every single one of those 50, 55-pound bags is being lifted by a human being. It's messy. It can potentially be unsafe for work conditions, depending on the controls in the area. And you have as mentioned before, you have the garbage, the waste of all these empty bags to clean up inside the building, causing more dust, and the cleanup time it can be very substantial.
Okay, so what is the LATICRETE SUPERCAP system? For those of you who are not aware of it, the heart of the system is a patented pump truck technology. It's a mobile manufacturing facility that drives up to the job site, delivering premium self-leveling underlayment. It's a cementitious calcium aluminate self-leveling underlayment. It's delivered in bulk through the patented truck. Calcium aluminate cement, because it's more stable, has less shrinkage, and has finer capillaries that contain less moisture than Portland-based cements. The SUPERCAP mobile blending unit it's an extension of our manufacturing plant. It's a computer-controlled mixing plant on wheels. We blend the powder and sand at street level. We can pump up to 50,000 square feet a day, up to 50 stories high. Includes a vacuum dust collection system for job sites free of silica dust, an onboard electric generator, a water supply tank, a chilled water supply that can be adjusted for poor day weather conditions. This is especially important in Florida and Texas and Louisiana, places where the daytime temperatures can reach 105 and 110 degrees for months on end. And many of those people are subjected to pouring concrete in the middle of the night, which is also not a safe situation. So we have adjusted and designed and engineered a chiller unit that you see here, which will deliver the water at 72 degrees Fahrenheit, which is laboratory conditions, and that's on 105 or 110 degree day. I was on a job down in San Antonio where we did that during the summertime, and it was 105 to 110 every single day for almost 2.5 months. There's a long arm articulating crane for lifting the super sacks, mixing sinks and rotostators, and the computer-controlled blending ensures a consistent mix and placement at a standard 4,200 psi. And there's a computer printout of materials used. That's especially important for the ready-mix delivery service, where the contractor is only paying for what's wet out of the hose, just like traditional ready-mix services. The SUPERCAP system primary benefits are significant time savings. It's cost effective, and we'll show you some comparisons to prove that point. There's increased job site safety, and what GC or subcontractor isn't subjected to that and isn't made aware of just how important that is to not only worker safety, but also insurance safety. OSHA silica dust compliance is a big deal, and that'll start rolling in on September 23rd of this month, and there will be monitoring, and I think everybody's aware of it. It's a big issue, and we solve the issue. We can produce incredible volume. The mobile blending truck pumps 30,000 pounds an hour. That's equivalent to pouring 600 pounds an hour. So with him, time not only flies, it also travels through a hose. The additional benefits, it's convenient and hassle-free. There's a consistent quality in that computer blended mix. It's Green Guard certified, and I think the A&D community is going to be especially important. If you're building any kind of a LEED certified building, we can contribute to that. We have a small job site footprint, especially important in downtown areas where hospitals and hotels are perhaps nearby, and that job site footprint doesn't tie things up, and because of our speed, we're not there that long. So that's also part of our future. The only thing that goes in the building is a hose. We did a national survey on that, and people said, how wonderful. We don't have to have all that staging pallets and bags and cleanup and everything else. The only thing that goes in the building is a hose. And the only thing that we need on the job site is a hose. We do need a garden hose. I haven't had any problem with that yet. The trades can be back to work in 24 hours, which is a big deal. You can walk on the floor in 2 to 4 hours, but the trades can be snapping lines in 24 hours. And the LATICRETE industry-leading warranty program is something that is a great peace of mind for the owner, for the GC, and it's something that we're very proud of. And we're going to now show you a video of a project we did up in Salem, Massachusetts. The LATICRETE SUPERCAP authorized applicator is Allegheny Contract, an applicator and a great leadership and staff who do a great job with SUPERCAP. So enjoy the video.
When the city of Salem, Massachusetts announced plans to transform its Registry of Deeds building into a new and modern courthouse, the project became the ideal showcase for the LATICRETE SUPERCAP system. Part of Salem's nationally registered Federal Street district, the building was completed in 1909. More than a century later, the demolition process revealed a number of unexpected issues, and general contractor W.T. Rich reached out to New England's LATICRETE SUPERCAP applicator, Allegheny Contract.
When they started the renovations, they started the demolition, they realized that the topping slab was failing. They came back in here and they tried to use a system where it was the old school system, small bags, and it would take them probably a month just to pour the concrete. They came in, they did some testing, whatever, and they weren't happy with the result. We came in here, saw that the pool was very unlevel, and we took pins and we placed them in all different increments. So we're pouring very different heights, and yet they're all at the exact same elevation. Today we're pouring approximately 10,000 square feet at 1.5 inch deep thickness. It's going to translate into about 3,500 small bags, which would have taken us, a couple of years ago, when we were using the small bag technology, it would have taken us probably a day, day and a half just to get material in the building.
Everyone that I've asked today if they thought it was going to go like it's going told me no. They couldn't believe that the speed and the quality, the flatness of the floor, and what they were just used to just a few hours ago.
The impact on the project is felt by every trade and, of course, the general contractor, who knows firsthand what the LATICRETE SUPERCAP system means to the project's costs and workflow.
So far, the experience has been great. We've had it looks like a good product. We're getting it in quick, no dust, one-day install. Everything seems to be working just fine.
It's not necessarily the cost of the material or our procedure, but it's the cost of their schedule when we compress it, maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month. It's huge to them.
The most important part about this is we're able to get in, and we've still got contractors working around us. As you can see, there's no dust here. They have no problems working above us. There's people working in the attic, and they're working below us. So the job is still progressing. Has no effect to any of the other subcontractors, except for the area we're working in. The best part about it is I can start regular work up here on Monday morning.
One of the advantages of SUPERCAP is we can come in into a renovation like this and do 10,000, 20,000 square feet with no issue at all, or we can do a 30-story building in Boston or over the Parcel C, over at the seaport. We're doing 18 stories over there. We'll pump all the way up there without having to bring any material, any dry, unmixed materials into the building.
Well, I think that guys appreciate not having to load bags into a hopper, one bag at a time, 50 pounds with all the dust and everything that you're eating. With this machine, it has a vacuum system, very clean. It's much healthier for the guys. It's a lot less manual labor, and the speed is incredible. We would have been here for, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 days with a smaller pump trying to achieve this, not to mention having to get the material in the building.
This morning we came up, the site was preloaded with material outside, pulled the truck up, ran the hoses in, and as you can see, we're pumping. We started pumping an hour and a half after we showed up on the site.
We would never have been able to afford this much material in 4 hours with any other delivery system that I've ever seen.
I wouldn't go back to the old bag treatment. We have done it, like I say, with the buckets. We've actually had some mixers that they brought in a portable machine, and they mixed it by bag. That's just as bad as doing it by the bucket. Your mixes are inconsistent. This is over today. Allegheny's been great, but glad to see you go.
So you see that LATICRETE SUPERCAP can be used in old renovations. In fact, probably at least half or more of our work is in renovated buildings because the floor slabs are in such poor condition, and the GC can bolster them up and put pan on metal deck where they need to, and we can pour and provide them with a flat cap to work off of and to build off of. And the hose goes out anywhere. So again, you're introducing. We did a project in New York City at the New York City Public Library at Bryant Park, and we snaked the hose 2 stories down from Bryant Park into a underground archival area that was being constructed that uses a robotic retrieval system built in Europe, and they insisted on a dead flat floor. And we were able to give them that, and the library insisted on no silica dust. So it's a big deal in the middle of Manhattan. Why ready-mix? Over 70% of the concrete used in America today is delivered through the $28 billion ready-mix concrete delivery services industry. We are leveraging that delivery service. We're piggybacking on what is a very successful business model. We've shown that there are new challenges in construction today. It's clear the commercial construction industry needs to embrace new technology at a faster pace. Prefabricated, modular, better designed buildings and new technologies from manufacturers are finding their way through we've always done it this way, or let's take the lowest bid prevail along. In fact, the lowest bid often lead to paying a price when one looks beyond the isolated cost versus an integrated cost that calculates what precedes and what follows the product, service, or installation cost. With today's fast-track construction schedules, meeting concrete slab specification tolerances has deteriorated. And unfortunately, there's a lot of project supervisors who will say that and are owning up to it, that it is becoming a bigger and bigger problem. And therefore, the growth in the self-leveling underlayment business. So we can solve problems quickly. With the increased volume that we can pump, we can cap slab 2, 4, and 6 times faster, depending on the scale of the project. So it makes a lot of sense, and especially when GCs have a sharp eye on their schedules and carrying costs. And while every market has different cost variables, we all know what time costs. So for the first time, the LATICRETE SUPERCAP Ready-Mix Delivery Service for self-leveling underlayment allows contractors to order self-leveling underlayment much like they have done for years with ready-mix Portland cement products. And a side note here on that is that the traditional ready-mix business does not focus on delivering flat floors. That's not their business, just rough screed substrate. So our system is mixed on-site, as you've seen, using super sacks in our patent pending truck. The contractor does the prep, prime, and place. The LATICRETE SUPERCAP crew supplies the material and the pump truck system to the job site. The only thing that goes in the building is a hose, and the contractor only pays for what they use wet out of the hose. No silica dust, no staging and tying up the freight elevators with thousands of silica dust laden small bags to clean up. And it's available in select markets, so we're not everywhere yet. It's a very straightforward business. It's a well-established business model, and we think that once you try it, that our experience has been that you look for projects after that to continue using it.
So much of today's architects, many of today's architects are using pan on metal deck construction. This is a typical floor construction method for raised floors. Ready-mix Portland concrete is pumped, usually bull floated and left to cure. The process of the curing is where the deflection occurs. And it often leaves the GC with a floor substrate that is out of spec for flatness. How much out of spec is dependent on many variables, including the water content used in the concrete, the environmental conditions during the cure, amount of, or the depth poured, and the curing process itself, mix design, etc. And obviously, the spacing between the supports underneath the deck, as shown in this photo, plays a role. And I've talked to many structural engineers who tell me that no matter what techniques they use to design a slab, cantilevered designs, or making some assumptions about how the slab will deflect between supports, they can never get it to, they can never guarantee that they will get this to their slabs to not deflect beyond the tolerances of modern floor goods. So, too many times at the end of the day, that this substrate is just not going to meet the 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch in 10-foot specification that the floor goods manufacturer is requiring. And as mentioned before, today's larger format tile, engineered wood, etc., and a lot of resilient materials as well, these products do not install well over less than flat floors, and it may be prohibited to install them over floors that are deflecting. So most likely we've all experienced this problem. Patching is not the solution with the larger substrate problems we're seeing more of today. Going to just briefly go through kind of a self-leveling 101, and this is just how to install. So first step is in new construction. The concrete is placed. It's bull floated or broom finished, depending on specs, to a minimum tolerance of something like FF15. No power troweling would be required. No curing compounds would be needed. We would want to stay away from those things if we can. The second step is we let the concrete cure, and the concrete is then surveyed by the contractor. Level pegs are set. This allows for a quality control method that will help during the installation of the self-leveling underlayment to keep everything perfectly level. And last step, the SUPERCAP SLU will be pumped over the entire surface up to the tips of, just over the tips of these level pegs at a nominal, say, 1/2 inch using the SUPERCAP truck. So that final survey, of course, will determine the average depth actually required, but 1/2 inch is a typical depth.
Okay, this is a case study on a famous location in Boston called The Point, where they were building a 34-story residential tower with retail at street level. The overall project was 375,000 square feet. It was a GC-controlled comparison of LATICRETE SUPERCAP versus a traditional barrel mix and pour, using a premium SLU product. The GC wanted the flooring contractor, which in this case was Allegheny Contract, to prove that the SUPERCAP system was as good as they claimed. The flooring contractor and authorized SUPERCAP applicator Allegheny Contract welcomed the challenge. And so on the next slide, you'll see it was 34 floors that were being finished. There's something else up on your screen, but I'll just go through this. 34 floors at approximately 10,000 square feet per floor. So we're not doing the elevator banks or the stairwells. We had to correct deflection of approximately 1 inch. So there was a higher than anticipated deflection that the contractor was not only surprised at, but also chagrined at, because it was a real problem. So part of the challenge was to deliver flat floors of an 1/8 inch and 10 for wood and a 1/4 inch and 10 for LVT. And part of the solution is now the GC was behind the 8 ball, and Allegheny Contract met that challenge and provide a fast and cost-effective solution. The results will speak for themselves. The SUPERCAP completed the floor in 50% less time and at a 30% lower cost. The test was done on two 10,000 square foot floor plates, the fourth and fifth floors, and so they ran a rather large study on this. Every little detail was covered, but here you see on each system on a 10,000 square foot floor, 50% less time and 30% lower cost. Exponentially, those numbers will go more favorable as you were doing larger spaces. So, but there's a good idea of how well it works on a smaller space. Here's some stats on it. There were 652 50-pound bags versus 22 super sacks. There was 16 hours load time, 0 for SUPERCAP. There was freight time. The traditional needed 16 hours also. There was no freight time for SUPERCAP. Removal of bag waste, none for SUPERCAP. Compliant with 2017 OSHA regs, yes. Total hours, traditional 264, SUPERCAP 128, total days 8 and 3. So that was a monitored third party from the GC who wanted proof of it. It was great for Allegheny because they won the entire contract, and so we're very proud of the results. An early adopter of the SUPERCAP system ready-mix service was tile and stone contractor, Barry Kemna, Kemna Tile. And we did a little spotlight on what he did here at the BMW dealership in Grapevine, Texas. And but his comment was, having access to the technology that saves time is a big deal. Combine that with less man hours and being compliant with the new OSHA rules. Using the new SUPERCAP system with a simple and proven ready-mix type of delivery service is a win-win-win. Barry's team had been placing SLU for years, so they had a very good understanding of what to do. But they upped their game by being able to do it in just 2 lifts, because the GC actually had to have them come back a few days later to do the second lift. The second thing that Barry said was that LATICRETE SUPERCAP Ready-Mix has just enhanced our reputation and our ability to go after larger projects. That's a big deal. So if you're embracing new technology and innovation, from what we've said earlier, he just upped his game without any investment. He didn't have to buy a truck or lease a truck. He's just paying for what's wet out of the hose. And so it really made a big difference to him. And we think that's going to ring true for people around the country.
So when should you consider the LATICRETE SUPERCAP Ready-Mix system? Our basic advice is target larger projects, and you know, some rules of thumb might be, say, a minimum of 10,000 square feet at a 1/2 inch or 5,000 square feet at 1 inch as minimum project sizes. Below that, it may not make sense to mobilize the truck and crew in all cases. So those are sort of some rules of thumb. You know, we encourage GCs to pour early on an open slab. That makes the work more efficient for other trades typically. So much of our work is poured, you know, after the exterior walls are up. A lot of it is poured either before or after interior walls are up. But you can obviously see that before interior walls are up might save some time and make the process of installing those interior walls easier. Certainly the contractors that do framing that we've spoken to really appreciate a super flat floor to do their work on. Another place where ready-mix really shines is projects that are behind schedule. These jobs are perfect for SUPERCAP. We can often shave weeks off of project schedules just because the process is so fast and efficient. If you're thinking proactively on any project that you know you're familiar with and anticipate deflection or other surface flatness or surface treatment issues, you know, prior to finished floor goods going down, you know, we keep in mind we do have a solution that's fast, effective, high quality. The system, or I should say the Ready-Mix Delivery Service concept is really simple to understand. So really the first step, as always, the contractor identifies the project. The next step is that SUPERCAP will be contacted, and we'll, if we haven't worked with this installer before, we'll pre-qualify them, the project and the contractor. The next step, SUPERCAP and the contractor will come up with a cost estimate and a timeline for the work based on the Ready-Mix capabilities. The next step, or in parallel with that, LATICRETE SUPERCAP provides training as required to the contractor in how to prepare a floor for self-leveling. The next step is that the contractor gets this contract and actually preps the floor, gets ready, prepares the site for the arrival of the SUPERCAP truck, and the final step is the truck pulls up. Materials, extra materials that aren't delivered inside the truck, if required, will be delivered and placed right next to the truck. And that team, that combined team of SUPERCAP and the local contractor will install it. And again, as Clint mentioned before, we provide the liquid out of the hose. The customer takes ownership of that liquid as it exits the hose and onto the floor. They spread it out and are left with a very flat and high quality floor.
So there's two ways to buy LATICRETE SUPERCAP. There's full service, which is available through an authorized LATICRETE SUPERCAP applicators. That's like six men crew and a truck, and they'll do it all. And then there's Ready-Mix Delivery Service. We've found that a lot of contractors are self-performing. A lot of contractors know 75 to 80% of what they need to know to place self-leveling. And they have this overhead and they want to do it. And why can't they use the Ready-Mix model? So they can. So that's available to pre-qualified contractors. So we will help you become qualified. And it's 2 men in a truck. Very simple as that. It's available in select markets. Not available everywhere yet, but we're very interested in talking to you and looking for ideal projects anywhere in the country. We're probably stronger east of the Mississippi than we are west, but that also is growing. So 2 ways to buy, very simple, very straightforward.
And LATICRETE SUPERCAP, of course, backs up its products with some very competitive warranties. We have 3 basic types for the self-leveling underlayment grouping of products, which includes, we didn't really talk too much about the details of our products, but they are described. There's slight differences in strengths and weight or density of the products for different applications, but SC500 is sort of our workhorse. We have a stronger version called SC500 Plus and a lighter version called SC500 Lightweight. So for all those underlayment products, we have a 10-year limited product warranty. It covers the product, and we're going to warranty that the product is defect-free. If the second category of warranty is the 10-year limited system warranty, which is invoked when moisture vapor control, the LATICRETE SUPERCAP MVC product, is used in combination with SC500. If we're using those 2 products in combination when there's a moisture issue that needs to be remediated, we have a 10-year limited system warranty. This covers the product and any labor and material that's required to remedy a problem that happens, later on if we determine that there is an issue. And the third category of warranty is when the moisture vapor control product, the self-leveling such as SC500, and select LATICRETE tile and stone installation products are used together as a system. You know, we engineer all these products to work hand in glove, to work very well together, and on that basis we can offer a 25-year limited system warranty, which also covers the product, labor, and material. So very comprehensive policy of warranties here.
Okay, so welcome to one of the best innovations our industry has ever seen. We hope that you've learned about this. We hope that you will take a look and talk to your LATICRETE rep about inquiring about more information. We'll come out and see you. We'll come out and work with you on pitching projects. We thank the FCICA for this webinar, and we're open to any questions that you may have.
Okay, great. Gentlemen, we have a few minutes for questions now left in our session, but while we're waiting for those questions to come in, do you guys have some common questions that you get asked about the system, or your products for that matter?
Sure, this is Aaron. I will give you a couple that I get pretty simple questions, but you know, good questions nonetheless. One of them is, how long does it take for SUPERCAP to dry? So the answer to that is SUPERCAP can be walked on in 2 to 4 hours after it's poured, and trades are back on working on the surface in 24 hours, and floor goods can also be installed as early as 24 hours, depending on the floor good. But generally speaking, you're installing floor goods next day. You know, another question that Clint sort of touched on earlier is, how do you address pouring these products in extreme hot weather? So Clint mentioned this earlier. It's something that's an important point that we can offer, which is we've designed a chiller unit that allows us to mix the SUPERCAP at an average temperature that's as low as you know, down to 54 degrees. I think we can get the water down to, and the truck pours at an average of about 72 Fahrenheit when we get that water temperature down to the 54, and that's near perfect laboratory conditions, and it solves a lot of problems. Anyone that's dealt with self-leveling knows that the hotter it is, the faster it cures, the faster it sets up, can make it difficult to work with. So the chiller unit that we have available for the SUPERCAP pump truck is you know, is going to make a lot more installation times possible.
A question that I often hear is, when is it best to apply SUPERCAP? We like to say early if it's possible, but we'll go, and that's before the walls go up. In fact, a lot of times we'll just ask the concrete subcontractor to bull float the slab, and then we'll come in and flatten it. But we understand that that's not always possible, and especially in renovation work. And so if we pour late on an ongoing renovation project or a new project, we'll pour with the walls up. Takes us a little bit longer, but it's all the same attributes. And I would say we're probably 50-50 between the two. So that's something that we can you know, offer. Another one is, what kind of specifications do we deliver? And we guarantee to exceed Division 3 and Division 9 flatness tolerances, virtually eliminating concrete deflection issues. And we know that deflection is a surprise. Just how much is it going to deflect? At GC on the Point project in Boston, they never expected to see, you know, in different places from 5/8 to an inch. And that's not possible to lay today's more highly engineered wear surfaces on. Another place that we hear about is, what are the best type of buildings? Well, you know, it typically is healthcare is a sweet spot. They need good work and fast work. Corporate needs good work and fast work. High-rise residential, and repair and remediation projects. Higher education is another place. A lot of times there's small windows for construction. and everybody's under a lot of pressure, we can go in and do the job faster and less expensively than any other system in North America.
Okay, gentlemen, while you were going over some common questions, we got a question in from Craig, and he was wondering, what are the vertical limitations of SUPERCAP?
That's a good question. So we say at least 50 stories is typical. We've gone higher, but 50 stories might be a good rule of thumb. This is certainly proven on a nearly daily basis in Manhattan. We have a lot of work right in New York City, and there's no shortage of tall buildings there, and 50 stories is no problem.
Great, thank you. So Amy's wondering, let me just get to her question really quick here. Amy's wondering, is SUPERCAP limited to what type of existing substrate it can go over? So for example, can it go over wood sleepers with rough concrete in between the sleepers? The wood subfloor was removed and will not be replaced.
Yes, we do that type of project frequently. We do have some technical guidelines for, so we're definitely installing over wood and cementitious materials like concrete. I mean, those are the two most common. Concrete's the most common, wood secondarily. We're in a sleeper type situation, depending on how strong the concrete is below or between the sleepers, you may be able to pour directly over a primed system, or you may have to reinforce it. And we do have guidelines that cover most situations in a technical data sheet that's available on our website, LATICRETESUPERCAP.com, and the technical data sheet that I'd point your attention to is called TDS 230S. It's the substrate preparation and primer guide. And if your situation is not covered directly by that document, please you can give me a call or give our technical service department a call, and they can answer your question.
And I might add to that we recently have done two projects. One, Macy's Herald Square had that problem, and we were able to satisfy and recommend a solution. And also Harvard University's dorms, which are being renovated in Cambridge, Mass., had a similar problem, and we were able to provide a solution. And you can go on LATICRETESUPERCAP.com, and you'll find a video on the dorm, and also I think a written spotlight on Macy's Herald Square.
And one other thing I'll point out, Clint, just to support that, LATICRETE SUPERCAP is specified in the New York City School Construction Authority specifications for self-leveling cement, and there's a lot of schools in New York City that have this exact issue, and we do have a method for this.
Okay. A quick expansion on that last question, also wanting to know about over existing ceramic or metal plates.
Yes, ceramic that's a standard for us. Metal, we would want we would want to have direct discussion with you about the type of metal. There's a lot of different situations we have done it, but would want to get our tech service department involved in that particular substrate.
Okay, thank you. Gentlemen, we are right at the top of the hour again, and we're going to bring our webinar to a close. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Thank you all for coming. Be safe out there. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call us at LATICRETE SUPERCAP. We'll be available to answer your questions offline, and we have terrific technical and sales reps around the country who could be at service to help you localize and provide solutions to a project that you have or perhaps want to pitch.
Okay, thank you. So we'd like to thank LATICRETE SUPERCAP for sponsoring today's webinar, especially thank both Clint and Aaron for presenting it today. Thank you both, gentlemen.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Kelly.
You're welcome. If you'd like more information about the SuperCap system, you can visit their website at LATICRETESuperCap.com, or you can contact Chad Love or Aaron Abbott directly, and their information is contained within the presentation slides, again, which are in our handouts and will also be sent to you after the session is over. So we'll be sending you a link to the recording once it's available and a copy of all the handouts that are here. And just a reminder that that recording will also be housed on the FCICA website for the month of September, and it will be housed on our YouTube channel. So you can access it there at any time, even after September. And for our certified installation managers, a reminder that this and all FCICA webinars can be credited towards your continuing education credits for your certification renewal. And if you're interested in sponsoring an FCICA promotional or educational webinar, you can contact me, Kelly at FCICA.com. And again, thanks so much for joining us, and have a great day. Stay safe out there.